Okay, we are live. Welcome everyone to the 2021 January 6th Diagnostics Working Group meeting. We are going to go through the items flagged for the diagnostics agenda. But first, does anyone have any announcements to make?
Nope.
Okay. So the first item we have is async hooks. Use new V8 context promise hook API. This
Uh,
is a PR that Stephen opened, I think.
yeah, I've been working on that for a bit. So I'm introducing a new uh, alternative to uh, the existing Promise Hook API, which exists on V8 Isolate. Which this now puts it on the context instead, which is more correct place for it. Um, and instead of triggering a C++ function, it triggers JavaScript functions. So uh, the microtask queue, it's basically all runs within JavaScript bytecode. So triggering JavaScript functions is a lot cheaper than hopping back to native all the time. So this change has had a fairly significant performance improvement. Now the changes that I'm making um, are basically all done on the V8 side at this point. There's just some like minor nits, like just naming of a thing, or there's like an extra variable they want me to get rid of, and just just small bits of things that once I get back to this, I'm gonna clean that up, and then it, as far as I know, should be ready to land the V8 changes. Um, so this I think is ready for people to review the node changes. Nothing should really change there. Um, and there's some like follow up stuff that I want to do. So that there is still I'm not really doing anything to make the optimizer play nice with this, which like it was exactly the same with the isolate based Promise Hook API as well. Had a bunch of optimizer bailouts. But those, now that this is all JavaScript bytecode, it should be possible to avoid some of those bailouts. Um, just need to actually add the code in to make it do that.
Are those bailouts for like the node paths or the code or in V8?
So it's in V8. There's basically two scenarios. When an async function is created, there's this sort of like temporal zone between when you call the async function and when the first await happens. Um, that has a special case in the optimizer that if there's no async hooks turned on, or no promise hook turned on, then it will optimize it a certain way. Um, the current state won't let it do that, so it won't optimize the whole function. It'll optimize from the first await. So that like first little bit is excluded. And the other case is the like promise.resolve and promise.reject functions have a fast path to skip the executor function, and that won't optimize either right now.
But I guess there's like, is it going to be changes in the V8 code base or in our code base to enable that?
Just in the V8 code base, nothing should
Okay.
change on that side.
Okay, got
So
it.
that'll just be some follow up V8 backport commit at some point.
Okay. Yeah, no, I just didn't know whether it was like we were writing code that just didn't allow the optimizer to trigger or the optimizer needed some changes, but understood. Thanks.
Yeah, just needs optimizer changes. The it's not really possible for the C++ based Promise Hook to optimize correctly in those cases. So it does that bailout, and my current changes here are basically making use of the existing bailout system from existing promise hooks. So I just need to untangle that a bit.
Sounds good. So, and yeah, it's good to hear that from the V8 side, you're not facing any challenges getting that landed. So,
No, that's all seems to be going well.
I see there are 2 file changes that are not from V8. We need to wait for the V8 changes to make those changes, or can we make those changes now?
So there's changes where?
In 2 files that are from Node.js, not from V8. On the async hooks file and async wrap.cc.
Yes. So there's for this initial PR, there's the change to V8 itself, and then uh, we need to make some of our own changes to Node to use this new API. The changes are fairly minimal, but then like after this change, then like the follow up like optimizer stuff that I was talking about won't require any changes. So that
this one, I think Mary was asking, like, we have the V8 change has to land first before the node specific parts in this can land, right?
yeah. There's this current V8 change which doesn't have any optimizer work, which the intent is to land this like the V8 stuff basically as it is right now, than the like minor nits I'm dealing with, and then uh, the small node changes that I made to make use of this, and then I'll continue working after that on the optimizer stuff to try and improve that a bit more, and then can land the rest of that at some point. But there's not really a need to block what I have now for the optimizer stuff, because like what I have now works and is a lot faster than what's out there right now. So.
And I might have asked this last time, but like, is there any reason, like the V8 commit, is that something that you think can go back to say 14 or?
Yeah, it should be fairly straightforward to backport. There is a few spots where like it's not going to backport 100% cleanly, but it shouldn't
Okay.
be too hard to backport. Yeah, I think I backported it cleanly to 14 and 13, but not 12. Like a local test not too long ago.
Okay.
I think 12 is on maintenance only, so backporting wouldn't even be possible.
I've been kind of working on this for a while, so sort of been testing like how far I could backport it. I think 12 was still a valid target when I was testing before.
Does anyone have any other questions or comments on this topic?
No, it sounds like there's good progress, which is great.
Yeah.
I'll try to help review the V8 code, but it seems like it already has a lot of people who probably knows more than me. It seems like an interesting PR.
Yeah, there's a couple people in the V8 team that have been pretty good about helping review it. So progress has been moving along nicely.
Good. So if we don't have anything else on this topic, we can move to the next one, which is discussion, move node inspect into core. So I think the diagnostics team was pinged here, or maybe not. Yeah, I don't think we were. But to summarize, Jan suggested that we could move the node inspect module into Node.js Core 3 instead of having it as a separate repository. The main reason being because there's two reasons. First, people find confusing that find node inspect confusing, and when they want to actually discuss the dash dash inspect option, so there's some confusion between what the node inspect actually is. And the second one is code drift, where there are points where core and node inspect are changed without syncing, and then they become incompatible at some point, which leads to maintenance burden on both sides. So the idea is to it also seems like node inspect is not reliably published to npm. So there is a lot of problems here, and the suggestion is to move the code to Node.js instead of having on a separate repository, with also um, the hope that it will improve collaboration for this part of the code. And that's it.
That certainly makes sense to me. I can't remember back when, you know, the decision. I remember there was discussions around like where it should go back a number of years ago, but if Jan thinks it's most effective, efficient to be part of core now, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, it's also worth noting that the code base of Node Inspect is very low, like it's only a few files and they are not long, and they could potentially benefit from some utilities we have internally on Node.js. So integrating it, I think it makes sense. I am also in favor of it. I didn't mention before, but I added to the agenda because Node Inspect falls under the Node.js charter, and the decision to move or not ends up being ours. So we need to decide on that.
Yeah, I'm overall in favor as well. And my only concern is just the code drift comment. As long as there's like enough people aware of the code and like how to work on it and like able to update it as needed, then it should be fine.
And I think we already had that problem because it was pulled into it was part of core. It's just that it was copied, right? So I'm not sure it makes things from that perspective any worse anyway.
I mean, it's still part of core. It's one of those dependencies that we pull as part of the build process.
Yeah. So it sounds like people are pretty much in favor.
Yeah, sounds like it. I'm gonna open an issue on the diagnostics and mention the team just to make sure there are no objections. And then wait a few days. If there are not, we can share the decision.
Sounds good.
Anything else on this topic? Okay. Moving to the next one. Identify async hooks use cases beyond async local storage.
Yeah, haven't had much time to put more thought into that stuff, but yeah, basically just been trying to identify what exactly is the path forward with async hooks, because like it's been ambiguous if if async hooks like in its current form should ever be uh, considered stable, just because it exposes a bunch of internals. Like, what can we do to get to something that is stable? Should we be layering stuff on top of async hooks and just never make async hooks itself stable? Or like, should we try and eliminate some of the bits of async hooks that are potentially unsafe? Or like, what should we do exactly? And to identify like what we should do there, I'm trying to gather like what exactly are the use cases of async hooks. Um, what are people trying to do with it, and like just think about like, are there better ways to achieve those different things? Are there more like appropriately abstracted interfaces to achieve that in a cleaner, safer way?
I'm wondering, like, do you think that like an issue here is the best way to collect that? Like, I'm wondering, like, how broad an audience do we need to try and pull to get that level of info?
I was thinking that it might be good to like tweet this out or something in like Foundation accounts, ask like what people are using async hooks for.
We could even go so far as like doing a survey.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah, I
wondering what
was
you think makes sense there.
yeah, I was thinking a survey as well, maybe a more freeform survey. Not like the promises one that was a lot of multiple choice question, and instead have like one, maybe two multiple choice questions with a text field where people can enter what they are doing with async hooks. I believe it will be a smaller audience that will respond to this survey, just because it's more niche tool to use to develop, even though some libraries use it. So there are a lot of users that probably don't know that under the hood async hooks is being used.
Mm, yep. Yeah, a survey could be good. Yeah, just trying to gather, um, but basically trying to get an idea for like the like structurally, what are people trying to get from async hooks? What are they hooking into? What insights are they actually trying to gather? And is async hooks actually the appropriate level to uh, share that data? Or should it be broken up into like a couple higher level APIs or something?
Yeah, I think, what Mary described as kind of makes sense to me, like a few very, the yes, no, like do you use async hooks, yes, no, and then if so, maybe which methods you use, and then a free form, which is like describe the use cases. I don't know, is it describe the use cases, describe the data, like a couple ones like that where it's like free form where we hope that they can give us, what Stephen just outlined.
Yeah, I think we might want to put a little more thought into exactly like how we instruct them, like what information we want.
Right.
Just because like it's not really like what specific hooks from async hooks are you using. That's not necessarily directly relevant. It's more like what are you trying to do with that. So it's like a little more high level information that we need.
Yeah, I think the promises one had a good sort of context setting, which would hopefully help set here's the context, the decision we're trying to make, and this is the kind of info we could use from you.
Yeah, we've already gathered a couple of use cases in there that seem to have like some amount of particular needs emerging. I don't know if we'd want to like in a survey suggest like here are some of the things we're looking at so far. I'm just trying to identify, is there anything you want that doesn't fit into these scenarios?
We could ask, like, do you use async hooks for this use case? Do you use it for this use case? Do you use it for any other use cases?
Yeah.
If so, describe. Okay, so that one, it kind of sounds like it does sound like a survey would be a good next step. We just need to write that sort of context and questions. Because I know definitely the foundation is set a number of times that like this year they're going to be doing a bunch of those smaller surveys, so I'm sure they'll be receptive to us coming to them with a one that we'd like to have done.
Yeah.
I can start up a request with a proposed survey, and then we can iterate on it.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Yeah.
And I think it's also a good idea for us to link the discussion on the survey to call more people to engage on it.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. That can kind of provide some of the context and if you want to get more engaged directly kind of suggestion.
Should we link the existing issue or should we open a new one? We can decide that later.
Yeah.
The existing one's not so long. Like if it's like a couple pages. So I don't know. Unless Stephen thinks that a fresh one would be useful, I think that one might work.
I don't have a strong opinion either way. There's not a huge amount of stuff to read in the existing issues. And get caught
Kind of
up.
like it's small enough that anybody who's interested should be able to read through pretty quickly.
Yeah. And I think this is a niche enough issue that and anyone that would be that, like, they would have anything to say about it would probably have like a deep enough understanding to actually read through all of this and make sense of it.
Agreed.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so do you have anything else on this issue?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, so this was the last item on the agenda.
The only thing I think I noticed was that Raphael had a few questions on one of the issues. Is that right?
Yeah.
I just wondered if it would be worth, if you can point us to that issue, and it might be worth spending a few minutes on those.
Yeah, let me get the issue.
Is it the inspector blackboxing issue?
Yeah, we have this and we have the transpose deep dive documents, but I guess this one is for deep dive meetings.
Yeah, if you can just paste them in the chat once you find them.
Yeah, I try to find.
Okay, yes, it's not always easy.
Okay, I think I found it.
Thanks.
I pasted it on chat.
Oh yeah,
Just this one? Okay.
so I spent some time to do this, but I was wondering that it should be done either on Node.js and in the dev tool as well. Um, the point is we need to set up the black box as default. But the on the Node.js side, we we already receive a message through webhook that could enable it. So the dev tools, uh, in my opinion, should send this message. And if we follow this pattern, we should change the node inspect as well to set the black box as default. So my question was if this is the best approach, or we need to just set the by default on the Node.js, but this is a bit invasive for, in my opinion.
Right, so it's basically one of the first commands that the client would send is set these black boxes, right?
Yeah.
I guess
After
I'm just starting to explore which side makes sense. Like in terms of maintaining what needs to be black boxed, is it good to have that bundled into the clients, or is it something that's best? Like, is it, that's does that information more closely fit with the Node project? Because like if we change something in Node, we may have to change the black boxing as well.
So right now the blackboxing is a regex, and it's very node specific. So, and also, I don't think it's going to change. Famous last words.
Yeah.
But we already changed it recently, specifically for this issue, and the new format is consistent with some things that were made on the modulus side. So yeah, I think it would be safe in terms of stability to have it on Chrome DevTools. My only worry is how hard it would be to get a node-specific black boxing rule included in Chrome DevTools. I never sent a pull request to Chrome DevTools, so I have no idea how much pushback that would face.
And they definitely did some node specific work because like they'll automatically find running node instances, right, and list them.
Yes, but also that's just how the inspector works for everything. So for example, if you have a Android device with inspector open, I think Chrome DevTools will pick up that as well. Or
Okay.
like a Android TV with inspector open. They use inspector for a lot of things.
Okay.
So perhaps a good start should be changed first on the node inspect in your site, and after we can discuss with DevTools. Uh, I'm node inspect is only the inspect terminal CLI, no, not for the protocol to the Chrome. And for our side, this will be easy to change.
I guess the other question I have is like, will these black boxes, like say there's some new tool that's going to connect to the inspector and use the APIs, is it also going to want these same black boxes on by default? Like it's, you know, if we think that everybody is going to want them on as the default, then forcing everybody to know that and to have code to do it seems less useful than just doing it, you know, when you connect. But if it's like only a subset of them would want it, then maybe it's a different answer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine some tools that will not want it by default. Profilers, for example. Although profilers might also want it by default, so
Yeah, my concern is to change it in Node.js and break some tools that we don't know that needs the black box by default.
um, yeah, I think it's worth trying to get it on Chrome DevTools.
I think in that case, like what Raphael suggested is like if we did it first in Node Inspect,
Yeah,
that would
that
be a
also
good.
sounds like a.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Yeah.
I was saying, yeah, like that's a good first step, and then once there, we can like even ask Hashid who might, you know, is there somebody within the Chrome Dev Tools that might actually do it there? Because I think at least at one point he was part of that Dev Tools team, and that might be part of why he was opening this in the first place.
I think he still is, but when he opened it in 2017, he was on the VA team.
Right. Okay. But I think at least I remember at some point he might have moved to the DevTools team, or was that Benedict? I can't remember.
Both.
Both. Okay. I'm just hopeful
I feel
that
like
if we
everyone
ping them,
on the team is gradually moving towards the DevTools team.
Okay.
Didn't
I guess
Alio
I'm
do?
just hopeful that that shows interest, that if we come back to them, they may actually say, yeah, okay, we'll get somebody to do it or something like that. Okay, so
Great.
Raphael,
So
does that answer that question for you?
no, it's clear. I will work to change it on the node spec first, so after we can go further.
And then the other one, yeah, you mentioned was around the deep dives or user journeys. Do we have that issue? Let's see, where is that issue?
Yeah, we have this issue. I will send on the chat.
Thanks.
This issue is we already discussed it here, but is to transpose the deep dive documents to the documents folder inside Diagnostics repository. So we are discussing how to do this or what's the best approach for it, but we still don't have a full tracking issue to show with everyone.
Right, okay, so is there an open question in terms of the, so, okay, so there's no open question. I just saw there was some discussion, wanted to make sure you weren't blocked on anything, but as long as that's not the case, that's good.
Okay. Is there anything else we want to talk about today?
Not me.
I think that's it.
All right. We can finish a few minutes earlier today then.
Great, thanks.
Thank you everyone for joining.
Bye.
See you in 2 weeks. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
See ya.